Happy New Year 2025. Here it is, another January, another year. Can you believe it? Here is to remembering our power in 2025, who we really are, appreciating our lives, which are utterly unique. No one has ever walked in your shoes, seen what you've seen, experienced what you've experienced, learned what you've learned. Okay. You are an amazing being just for being who you are. And here's to, in 2025, remembering our uniqueness, number one, and that is our power. And also learning to take everything with a grain of salt, seasoning the experiences we have liberally with good intentions to learn, to grow, to enrich our lives and the lives of those we love, and to make our life experiences as savory and delicious as we possibly can by applying our power, which is always to choose the meaning that we create. Now, I want to talk about, since it's the first of the year and we all are thinking very commonly about, setting intentions or goals or resolutions for the new year. It's a very common thing. It's all about time, right? And there are so many ideas about time, and I want to share some things that I've learned in this past year about that. Think about the vocabulary of time, years, months, days, weeks, hours, seconds, nanoseconds, right? And how do we feel about time? Do we feel like we have an abundance of time, or is there a scarcity? Are we feeling pressured and like we're crunched for time all the time? That's one of my issues. Are we waking up enthusiastically to start the day, or are we waking up feeling overwhelmed or crushed by the responsibilities that we may have in life? And all of those details of how we think about time are things we create, okay? And in fact, time, we think it's a standard stock thing, and I want to challenge you in thinking about time, that it is actually a co-created reality. It's a reality we share, okay, in the meaning. We give meaning to the time. And we always have freedom to choose to change that meaning. Okay, so it's our freedom that can never be taken from us. Okay, and that's what people who have lived through some very, very difficult times in life have discovered. And in 2024, I discovered a whole brand new field of knowledge that is being explored and studied and shared both scientifically and publicly that has a lot to do with our concept of time. In a profound way, this new field of study is expanding our conceptual framework related to time. And it's a fascinating field. It was pretty much got started by doctors and nurses who were up close in witnessing and interacting with a unique phenomena regarding time. So there is an organization called the International Association for Near-Death Studies, IANDS, that has been studying and recording the phenomenon of people who die clinically, are medically declared dead, and then come back to life. And the amazing experiences of consciousness that many of these people who've gone through this experience have, that is a form of expanded state of consciousness that even though their brains were dead, their hearts were no longer beating, they were not receiving oxygen, they were experiencing some incredible things and getting some incredible knowledge. I always ask people, where do you get your information? Do you get it from the internet? One place we get it is from a non-physical source, and we all do all the time. Anyway, so in this Happy New Year post, I want to share something that an NDEer, that's a near-death experiencer, NDEer, brought back and shared in an interview, and I've watched a number of them recently. He said that in this physical reality, we often think that we are going through time, but we have it backwards. He said, time goes through us. And I just want you to think about that for a little bit. Now, if you're new to this human experience, you're a newly born baby or young child, you are experiencing life through the eyes of someone who does not know what time is, okay? There is no time. It's the same thing for our pets, our dogs and cats, or some other planetary cousin that has eyes, okay? You're seeing through the eyes of someone who does not have these concepts, okay? You didn't have the concept of time until you were taught them, okay? There is no such thing as a year. Another NDEer said her brain trauma from what they thought she was going through, she was a young woman in her early 30s, and she started to have some symptoms of memory loss, and it grew worse and worse and worse. She was diagnosed with early onset dementia, early onset Alzheimer's in her early 30s. Ultimately, then she wound up having a stroke, and she wound up having amnesia. She could not remember her past. And that actually turned out to be a blessing, because all of her insecurities and fears and anxieties were connected to her memories. Think about that. How many of your insecurities and fears are connected to your memory? And wouldn't it be a blessing if you could just suddenly forget those and wipe those out of your thinking? Well, in a sense, when you meditate and you stop your thoughts, that's what you're doing. You're letting go of those memories. Anyway, so she wound up having a near-death experience that, and she received an incredible life change. And that is something that's very common with NDEers that go through that experience. And the thing is, you don't have to go through a near-death experience to have these kind of experiences. It turns out I have had some of my own that were not nearly so dramatic. You don't have to have a dramatic thing where you're, in a hospital in a coma for weeks or whatever. And no, you don't need to have that. And the fact is, and thinking about time, think about the calendar. Now, right now, it's the year 2025 for most of us that in this culture that we share. That's 2025 years since we started counting. Okay, way back when. Isn't that interesting that someone started counting time in years? But if you're Jewish, it's the year 5785. That's 5,785 years ago when they started counting. Or and by the way, their New Year starts in October, and it changes because they're using a totally different type of calendar. They're using a lunar calendar. And so they don't have the 365 days with the 1 day of leap year every 4 years. It's a different calendar. Okay. Likewise, in Chinese, the Chinese calendar, it's the year 4720. So it's been 4,720 years since they started counting. Okay, and they also are on a lunar calendar, and their year tends to start in February. So it's not really the new year. I know in my faith tradition of Orthodoxy, our New Year is in October. So anyway, the fact is, the only time that really exists is right now. Okay, if you're thinking about something in the past, you're thinking about it right now. If you're anticipating something in the future, you're doing it right now. So now and now and now, that's where all your power is and all of your choices to respond. So I want to just, in closing this Happy New Year message, I want to just say, here's to being fully present and alive, and recognizing that we have the ability to hold time in our hands, in essence, and create the meaning, and take time to reflect. When something happens that feels off or scary or disturbing in any way, and there's so many things going on right now that you can look at and go, oh my gosh. Whew. Well, think about that. Take a step back. Add some salt. Take it with a grain of salt. Is it directly in your experience? Are you looking around and seeing the things and experiencing the things that the people that might be posting on media or in the news podcast or whatever, the thing that disturbs you, is it in your immediate circle? And one of the things, that I recommend to people too is to remember the wisdom of Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that, okay, there's you and the things you have the control over, which is yourself, your thoughts, your thinking, your activity, your behavior, the things you do, the actions you take, but particularly the things you think and the way you feel. You actually have, that is the thing you have absolute control over that no one else actually has control over. No one can really control what you think. Okay, that's number 1. Then there's a sphere around you that is your sphere of influence. Okay, these are the people in your life that you have a direct impact upon and that you influence. And then there is a sphere of concern. And highly effective people who have power are careful and cautious to not let their sphere of concern get bigger than their sphere of influence. And when they do that, and they start to focus on creating the best possible life experience for themselves and the people that they influence, which is their children, their spouses, their family, the people they work with, the people you actually interact with, your next door neighbor. Okay, what kind of interactions are you having with people, at the checkout counter when you go to the grocery store, the hardware store? Are you putting out there an intention of positivity and good intention? Okay, when you do that on the people that you interact with on a daily level, on a daily basis, it's amazing what happens. And so when you do that, when you focus on what you can control and focus your attention on your sphere of influence and not allow your sphere of concern to get much bigger than that, guess what happens? Your sphere of influence will naturally grow bigger and bigger. But if you have a sphere of influence that is way bigger than outside of your control, if you're, when I myself have friends who have family members in the Middle East, and to see what's going on there right now is absolutely horrifying and horrendous. And I give myself about 17 seconds to think about those things when I see them and to feel into that, because in 17 seconds, feel as awful as you want. But if you spend more time than 17 seconds, you will actually start to attract that feeling that you're having. You'll attract experiences that confirm that feeling. It's an amazing thing. So when you see something really horrifying this year, start a little countdown in your head. 17, 16, 15, 14. And when you get down to about 5, 4, 3, take a deep breath and say, I cannot control this right now. I have no influence over this. This is outside of my sphere of influence. I'm letting this go. I'm intending the best possible thing for these people. God bless them. And if there's something you can do, if you have lots of money and you want to give it to charity, that goes to that. If you want to sign up to go on a mission trip and do that, and you can afford to do that, and you have the time to do that, fantastic. But focus on the things you have direct control over and the people that are closest to you in lives, and make it as light and bright as possible. And that's how we're going to get through this year. That's my way of approaching all of these crazy things. So anyway, I want to thank you very much for being listening to my New Year's message today, and love to you. This is going to be part of my first. I'm launching a podcast in 2025 called Safe and Sound. And safe and sound is how we all want to feel. That is a universal desire, whether you are a feral cat. I will be sharing some cat stories in my life, as well as some stories about children and driving a school bus, and about all kinds of concepts of safety. And so that's going to be my podcast. And so thanks so much, and have a wonderful, happy New Year day to you. Remember, now and now and now. There is no future and there is no past. These are all mental constructs. Be here now. Thanks. Have a great day.